Hi everyone, welcome back to another week on the Brush by Brandy YouTube channel. This week we're working on this little piece that's behind me, and I picked this one up because I love the shape of it. It's a great size to practice some techniques on, but namely that it's got this texture on it. This is actually a wicker piece of furniture, and I wanted to show you guys that some of these techniques can be applied to textured pieces of furniture, including wicker, can be redone with a lot of the same techniques that we use on smooth surfaces. So don't shy away from things that have a little bit of texture to them. It can actually add a lot to your piece. So this one we're going to do a blend with some kind of bold colors. There's going to be some transfers, and I'm going to show you how to apply this all over a textured surface. So it comes out beautifully. You guys stick around and let's get started. And we're not going to be afraid of texture after this, okay? Here we go. Here's where I started on this piece. You can see what drew me to it. It has a great shape and I love the texture. This is going to be a fun one to work on. So I originally started this piece out on my Facebook Live video, and I started out with some more colors that I ended up with in my final finish. But that's kind of what this first coat is always for. I always tell you guys it's for conceptualizing. Try some things out, see how your color combinations are working, and then you can always refine it as you go through to your next coat. So I had a good idea for what colors I wanted to use. I wanted to use some blues and greens and fade up into little light ivories and creams as I went to the top. So at the top I'm using Wiseout paint, and this color is called Ivory. I did make sure to give this piece a really good cleaning before I got started, and then I gave it a light sanding just to sand away any parts that may have had flaking or peeling top coat on it before. It didn't have a lot of it, but there was a couple spots, and that's not uncommon with wicker. You want to make sure you get rid of all of that, because any chipping or peeling that's left underneath your paint is still going to have a tendency to chip and peel away your new finishes. After I had my ivory on, I faded out into this soft beige, and this color is called Earth, and it was a really pretty combination with the ivory. I think it'll definitely be a color combination I use again, but the color that really got me on this one, and I swear this is going to be a sleeper hit, is this color called Spanish Olive. It's this beautiful, rich, vibrant green, and it was just what this piece needed for kind of a tropical vibe. Small pieces like this are also great for trying out a little bit more daring finishes, things you might not be brave enough to do on a full-size 12-drawer dresser or your china hutch, but you can put on some of these smaller pieces and really take some risk in it and try to expand your horizons. Because my inspiration on this was kind of that Tommy Bahama tropical vibe, I wanted to go with these colors that represented sort of the sand and sea, and that's exactly where I was going with this. The green would represent the land, but now I need to add a little bit of water at the bottom, and that's going to come in some tones of blue. This is also a really nice size piece to work on, because when I needed to get down low on it, I was able to just tip the piece backwards and get to all these pieces down on the underneath side. After my Spanish Olive, I'm going to blend in some tones of blue, and I chose two tones of blue. My darker shade is called Prussian blue, and the lighter is called Joyful. I don't think I really had a clear direction for this piece at this time, and that's okay. That's perfectly normal, because again, this is just sort of my rough draft when I get to kind of work out my thoughts and see where it's going, pick out the things I like, eliminate the things I don't like, and on my next round, I'll go ahead and refine my finishes. Right away, I love this combination of the Prussian blue and that Spanish olive. They're very rich, vibrant colors and exactly the vibe that I was after. So as I was getting ready to wrap up this first coat of paint, there was a lot of things I like and a lot of things I didn't like. And let me go through those with you. So I felt like this was a little busy. At this point I had 5 colors, and this is a fairly small piece. So I felt like I needed to simplify a little bit. So I wanted to eliminate some of my colors. I felt like I wanted to bring the green and the blue in a little bit more. Those were two that I really enjoyed in this finish. So I'm going to go ahead and eliminate that earth at the top and minimize the section of ivory. And I'm going to bring the green and the blue up. Once I had that first coat of paint on, the second coat went on like a breeze. So that first coat of paint, I did need to dig my brush into those crevices a little bit more to make sure that I got full coverage all around all the sides of this wicker. And how I did that is I used a little bit of water. It helped thin the paint, and it helped to find all those low points and color any crevices that were inside the wicker. But once I had that first coat on, my second coat, I didn't really need to do all that. So I was able to just pay attention to my brush strokes and getting that nice smooth blend that I wanted. So just be aware that that first coat is going to take a little bit more time and a little bit more paint when you're painting on wicker surfaces. This chalk synthesis paint is a water-based paint, so it's friendly to water, so I can use that little bit of water to just thin it out in any areas that I needed it to, and that really helped me get coverage on this wicker. So you can see what I'm doing here. I'm bringing those blues up a little bit higher, and I tend to do this whenever I'm doing a second coat on a blended finish. I will reverse the order because you'll notice that my white and my beige got a little heavy at the top. I know that I tend to be heavy-handed with whatever colors I start with. So on my second coat, I will reverse that, and it kind of balances out my color scheme. As I have this piece tipped back and working these beautiful blues into the greens, this color scheme is stunning, you guys. It really looks like a Caribbean water scene. And you'll see here where I'm going to carry that Spanish olive up a little bit higher, and I'm going to let that cover up the portions where I had the earth. It's a really pretty color. I'm going to save it for another piece, but on this one, I really want this green and blue color scheme to shine. I'm going to leave this ivory highlight in the center, but I'm going to blend the green up into it a little bit more. It's going to create this beautiful sunny, almost a yellow tone out of the two. I love finding this. The colors that you can create when you're blending, by overlapping those two colors into each other, you can create all these fun color mixes. In this case, the ivory and the Spanish olive gave me this sunny, bright color that I just love. By eliminating that one color from my finish, I'm much happier with the direction that this is going. I feel like it cleaned up the piece quite a bit. As I finish up my second coat here, I finally see my direction start taking shape, and I feel a lot more confident in the decisions on this one. So the next thing I want to do is add a little bit of black wax for detailing. And so I'm just taking a small artist brush, and I like to use a nice firm wax for this. And that's because when I'm doing a very deliberate placement of wax, the firmer it is, the easier that it goes on in exactly the places that I want it to. So I brush it on with this small artist brush, and then I'm going to come back with a slightly larger brush, and I'm just going to smudge out that line. I would sort of compare this to doing a smoky eye look with your eyeshadow or eye makeup. And you can see I put my eyeliner on, and then I'm going to smudge it out. This is sort of like putting some shadow around the edges. It gives me this nice darkened edge, and this is really going to be authentic for that ephemeral and well-traveled vibe that I'm going for. Next, I'm going to repeat the process with these dark waxes on the sides, and I am applying this over raw paint. If you're a little bit self-conscious about doing dark wax over raw paint, you can go ahead and seal your paint before doing this. I do like how this little bit of dark wax takes to the raw paint, so I've tended to do it more and more on raw paint as I've done more and more pieces. The dark wax along the edges also highlights some of the texture in this wicker, because as I smudge it out, it's going to pick up on a little bit of that texture as I come out from the edges, and it's really beautiful. Dark wax is meant to mimic the look of wear or dirt that would have gathered around the edges over time, and so this makes the piece look like it's got some age and tells a story. I use black wax on just about every piece that I do, but I'm using so little wax that this tin will last me forever. I do put a lot of wear into these small artist brushes, so I do tend to replace them quite frequently, and that's just personal preference because I like to work with ones that are kind of newer, and so I just make sure that I keep a collection coming in the door all the time. These are available in my Amazon shop, and I just pick them up as I need them. Most of the small artist brushes I use are fairly inexpensive, so they're not super nice, and that way I don't have to worry about putting extra wear and tear on them because I can replace them pretty easily and pretty inexpensively. This is a great view here. Let's go in a little bit closer and really see how that black wax is taking to this wicker texture. Black wax also deepens the color of your paint tones, and so I get even richer paint tones along the edges where I've added this. So anytime you want to deepen your paint tones, you can also just add a little bit of black wax over the top and use that as your finish, and it will give you even deeper paint tones. Here's where I landed on this piece with all of my paint finish done and that dark wax on, but I still feel like it's missing a little bit something. I'm going to add a transfer. I chose some leaves from the tropical bird transfer from Redesign with Prima, and I just cut these out, and these are going to fit my scheme perfectly. This is sort of a monochromatic color scheme in that I'm using the greens and the cream colors at the top, and these leaves have the same green and cream color, so I'm just going to apply these at the top, sort of a swag that comes in from the corner. Transfers have a little bit of stretch to them, and so they take to textured surfaces like this really well. So I'm just going to start with the flattest portion first, and I'm going to rub that on using the transfer tool that comes in the package with my transfer. I'm going to pull the clear backing sheet away as I go. So after I rub over it one time, I'll find an edge and lift up, and it pulls away pretty easily, especially on textured surfaces like this. The transfer just naturally wants to release. Anywhere that I got deep crevices, I'm going to come back with a razor blade or a razor knife, and I'm just going to cut those into the crevice so my transfer doesn't want to tear in those deep portions. I'll also need to cut my transfer around the edges where my drawer will need to open, and I try to do that with the clear backing sheet still attached. That gives me the cleanest cuts on the transfer. You can layer transfers, and that's exactly what I'm doing here. So I laid on one leaf at my top corner, and then I'm going to come back and layer on another leaf and another leaf until I have a completed design. I'm also using a brush here, and I'm using the brush over the top. It's going to sort of press that transfer into all the crevices of those wicker. I also decided to repeat the same transfer pattern up onto the top corner of my piece. And so I started out again by laying on my first leaf, and then I'm going to come build my design. When I'm building transfer designs, I usually start with the largest piece first, and then I'll build out from there with smaller accent pieces. I'm also using some cuts and scraps that are from edges or pieces that I had already cut on this, and I fit them in on the flat edges here around the trim of this top. I rub it on with that transfer tool again, lift that clear backing sheet up, and pull away as I go until that clear backing sheet releases completely. Once I've got my transfer completely on, I need to go ahead and seal over the top of this piece. Now this piece has a lot of depth and dimension in that wicker, and so I'm going to go ahead and brush this on. Spraying would have been another option, but this is a really small piece, and so I didn't want to get out my sprayer for such a small piece. I'm just going to go ahead and use a brush. I'm using one of my Klingon synthetic bristle brushes. That's going to give me a nice, smooth, even clear coat. And I'm just making sure that I brush over it quite a few times because I don't want any of that clear coat to puddle in any of the crevices of my wicker. So I'm just going to brush on really thin, smooth, even coats, and I can add multiple coats, but the key to this is making sure that I don't allow puddling because I've got so much texture in this finish. I did end up doing 2 coats of my clear coat over the entire body of this piece to get nice full coverage. Made sure to pull out those drawers, and you'll notice that I've also got a blend along the edge of my drawers so those match the body of my piece, and I want to make sure those are sealed in my clear coat as well. As I worked my way around this piece, I also made sure to go back to places that I had already done and make sure that drips didn't start to form, because you never know with wicker like this where clear coat can start getting up and hiding, and then it can start dripping as soon as you turn your eye away. So make sure you go back and keep checking the areas frequently and brush away any drips that might start to form. With 2 coats of clear over the entire body of this piece, this one is done, and here it is in my workspace. It's already looking super bright and cheery. I'm really happy with how this one turned out. I decided to stage it with some well-traveled looking accents and some tropical leaves, some gold to match my hardware. I just replaced the original hardware with a good cleaning. This piece is complete. What do you guys think? If you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll click that subscribe button. You can find links for everything I use in the description for this post. And as always, you can find more Brush by Brandy on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, and on my website at brushbybrandy.com.